Hey humans, I'm Tom Jacobs. I'm on the web at tdjacobs.com. I'm an evolutionary astrologer and also a channel. I channel spirit guides and I'm also a medium. I channel the energies of dead people for resolution and healing, and an energy worker. This is another astrology video on my four steps story, the four-step karmic story, where I learned a lot from Stephen Forrest. I learned a little bit from Jeff Green, and then I learned a lot from the Ascended Master to kind of tie things together. Ascended Master Jehudi. That's his Egyptian-like name. He's also known as Thoth, Hermes, Saint Germain, Merlin. So anyway, so this is a four-step story. I did one of these a week or two ago, and I just want to do another chart. This is a random chart number two. I'll just give you the data right now, but you can probably see it. September 9th, 1970, 2:48 p.m. in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. This is randomly selected, just like the other one. I looked at it only enough to see that Pluto was not in the same house as the last chart, which the last one was in Scorpio in the seventh with Moon. Anyway, so I haven't studied it. I haven't looked at it. What I'm going to do in this video is go through the four steps of the story. Number one, Pluto, the empowerment journey the soul sets out for its humans over millions of lifetimes, including this one. What the person has to do to make life feel meaningful. So we have this urge to do it in our root chakra, this drive to do it from the unconscious, to feel empowered, to feel strong and confident. And then number two, the south node of the moon, which is about the kinds of contracts that the soul makes with other souls to create family systems and communities that family is connected to. And so this is a step two, the south node of the moon is a conditioned worldview. Your blank slate root chakra is imprinted in every life at birth with the thoughts and feelings and energies and behavior patterns of people in the family system, people who are already there. So your soul says, hey, other souls, can you please show me how to be human in these ways? And they say, sure, we're already going to do that anyway, so come be born to our family or be adopted or raised by our family. So that's step number two, a conditioned worldview, south node of the moon. Step number three, south node ruler by sign. In this case, the south node's in Virgo, so the ruler by sign is Mercury. And what we're looking for there is a deep layer of identity underneath sun, moon, and rising that a person may carry. So I don't know what's going on with my nose. I have to do that over and over again. Okay. So special skills and talents, but like I said, a deep layer of identity, deeper than sun, moon, and rising, which are what we typically look for in an astrology chart to understand personality. You've done it over and over again, and you're giving off what I call karmic vapors. I'm really good at this, stand back. Or I love this, or I hate this, but I'm really good at it. Give me some space, I'll take care of this job or this way of living. Person expects to be treated like the south node ruler by sign. Okay, now the fourth step of the story, the last one, is the north node of the moon. This is the opposite of step number two, the conditioned worldview, family system, and by extension, community. Themes in the family system through generations and in this current life. The fourth step, the north node, is what this person has not learned healthy models of. Person may have seen crummy models, but has been up and mentored to grow into this way of life. And every person has a north node, so everybody's in this position where they don't want to learn the opposite of what's familiar. We don't want to be challenged like that and go into new territory, which is unfamiliar. So everybody doesn't want to do their north node, but we need to learn to embrace it so we can integrate it and be more in balance. We don't ever want to dump the south node or forget about it because we're really good at the best and worst of all those things in the south node area. But the north node is something we haven't learned how to come into balance with. And so we're challenged to learn it. What I'm going to do in this video is, I think, 3 different rounds. I'm going to go through the 4-step story with basic sentences, basic sentences. I'm going to say Pluto house. This is an empowerment journey about blah, blah, blah. The sign done in this kind of way with this kind of motivation. Step number 2, south node, blah, blah, blah. Very basic, just running through the 4-step story, making a scaffolding. Then I'm going to come back and do another round. And in this case include, let me just say, south node ruler is retrograde. So I'm going to add that in and also aspects like Pluto conjunct Mercury, Pluto square moon, hard aspects. I'm not going to worry about trines and sextiles because people don't. My focus is on healing, and people don't come in complaining because like their Pluto's trine Saturn and they feel very productive and accomplished. They don't come in with heartache and despair because Pluto's trine Saturn and they got so much work done last year or this year. Okay, so and then the third pass, I'm going to return. I'm going to start over, do the 4 steps again, and add in layers of what these symbols that I've been talking about actually look like in real life to make a real story. This is a good experiment if you're studying astrology with me to do this in a very basic way. And by the way, EA Fundamentals 1, Evolutionary Astrology Fundamentals 1, introduces the model of soul and the 4-step process and explains Pluto, South Node ruler in deep detail, and then starts you practicing 4-step stories and example charts. Evolutionary Astrology Fundamentals 2, and these are both home study courses, is just practice, getting more comfortable telling this 4-step stories and adding in some little details. Evolutionary Astrology Intermediate 1 begins actually this weekend, on March 23rd and 24th, and you can check that out on my site. The first 2 courses are prerequisite. So some of you seen this video have already taken those home study courses and you're eligible to take EA Intermediate 1. Otherwise, look for the next offering because less than a week isn't enough time to work through the first 2 courses. But if you already have them and you've worked through them, you're welcome to join. See my site, tdjacobs.com, under Learn Astrology to see all the details. Also, the link to those courses, both the prerequisite home study courses and the live course that begins this week, the links will be in the description of this video. So in the last pass, anyway, so that kind of follows through those courses. We add more layers of meaning as we go, but it's a good experiment for you to look at the basic thing. Oh, in this case, in this chart, oh, Pluto's in the 9th house in Virgo. Okay, 9th house activities done in a Virgoan way. Okay, South Node's in the 8th house. The family of origin has to do, and you just kind of go through and understand the scaffolding. You can tell someone their life story in 4 sentences. It's very abstract, it's vague, but then you add in details as you go, and it comes alive. The way that I do this, I do take nudges from spirit guides. I do that, but I teach astrology and also the ascended master I work with, Jehudi, Hermes, Thoth, Saint Germain. But my astrology courses is to help you think like Hermes, Jehudi, Thoth, without having to channel him for, I don't know, 15 years or something at this point, 20 years, without having to do that. So I basically teach you how to expand your understanding in your mind beyond what any other astrologer is teaching, even other evolutionary astrologers. So let's get started. So let's first focus on, let me see if I can do this, Pluto. There's Pluto in the 9th house. This is an empowerment journey about the search for truth in Virgo in a methodical, detailed, analytical way. Okay. Number 2, South Node of the Moon in the 8th house in Virgo. This person's conditioned worldview and the family of origin in every life, and including this one, is on 8th house themes of learning to trust, learning to recover from breaches of trust, in an analytical, healing way, Virgo. Okay. Number 3, this is one of those special ones from 1970 where, anyway, okay. So then number 3 is a South Node ruler by sign, Mercury in the 9th house of Virgo. So this person in every life is born into that 8th house place, but shows up as a 9th house person, so searching for the truth, asking big questions, in Virgo being really detail oriented and analytical. Okay. North Node of the Moon in the 2nd house in Pisces. What this person has not learned in many lifetimes, but needs to stretch into and balance and grow into balance now, is 2nd house, living according to her own values. Pisces, in a way that surrenders control, in a way that, like merging with her own value system. Okay. But developing self-reliance. In the 8th house, we rely on people. In the 2nd house, we become self-reliant. So that's pass one. I just told you this imaginary person's life story. Somebody hearing that would say, that kind of does sound like me. So now let's go to the second round. Let's double back and add in the hard aspects. First to Pluto and then the South Node. Okay, so first we have, we're going to ignore the sun because if you look at the degrees, it's about 10 degrees from Pluto to the sun. They're tied together personality-wise because of the Mercury in the middle. But as far as the karmic journey goes, the Pluto story does not include sun. So let me just do this a little bit. Okay, good. So Pluto conjunct Mercury. As I said, this is a journey about the search for truth in an analytical, detail-oriented way. And it's merged with the need to process information, be discerning, and learn. This Mercury's retrograde. And so this person needs to figure out what is worth learning and what is really true. I'll explain that more in the third and final pass here of interpretation. But this person is searching for the truth and may not find it. That's a part of the ninth house thing. And this could be through religion or whatever. But anyway, this is that aspect. Now, square the moon in Sagittarius in the first, this person has in every lifetime tension with both family, moon, and community by extension, moon. We might assume mother, maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but don't assume it is. Or women or something like that, but has friction. That's the idea of a square. I'm doing this Plutonian journey to figure out what's true. I'm learning, asking questions. I'm squared by moon and Sagittarius in the first. People who have, people I love, people I'm connected to, my family, they have very different ways of believing. They might accept things blindly on faith. And they might defend first house and defend their beliefs, Sagittarius. They're telling me, don't believe that. And I'm telling them, don't believe that. What do you believe? We don't understand each other and we may bring friction to each other. Okay. Okay. Now, second step of the story, South Node of the moon with hard aspects. So we're going to come back here. South Node in the 8th house, learning about trust issues and healing and recovering from breaches of trust in a Virgo way with a mind toward healing, a mind toward trying to help each other and improve our relationships. Conjunct Mars, saturated over millions of lives with all the best of Mars and the worst of Mars in turn, back and forth. So Mars keywords include assertiveness, aggression, all things physical. It even includes abuse. It includes sexuality, it includes desire. It includes boundaries. It includes being defensive and defending the self. And as I said, assertion and aggression. So in this family, in the 8th house of intimacy, saturated with Mars energy. So this chart holder knows all the best and worst of Mars. More on that in the third. So I got ahead of myself because I like just going deep right away. So this person is an expert at all the best and worst of Mars. And people in the family are as well. And people will have different ways of responding to that. Let's think about squares to the nodes. There's definitely Neptune square to the nodes. And I wanted to check this out. I just glanced briefly when I made the chart. Saturn's at 2236, nodes at 244. It's more than 10 degrees, so I'm not going to count it. With conjunctions and squares and even oppositions to the South Node, I count 10 degrees. Anyway, so we're going to leave out the Saturn. But the Neptune is square the nodes. So different than square Pluto. A square to Pluto says, in this empowerment path, I receive friction from elements that fit this energy. In this case, the moon and Sagittarius in the first. In this case, the South Node represents the contracts and the conditioning among family. The conditioning environment in many lives, including the contracts between souls that create that family. Please show me how to be a person. Please show me these themes. So a square to that says everyone in the family is kind of tripping over their shoelaces about this. I call it an unresolved issue. Other evolutionary astrologers will say skip step or misstep, and they have their explanations for it. They don't make sense to me because it's not that we haven't done it. It's that we trip over our shoelaces. Let's say you know 4 or 5 key things. In this case, this chart holder about Neptune and Scorpio in the 11th. And let's say that person is really good at 4 or 5 key things. Well, what if there are 10 or 12 things that anybody would need to know in order to be happy and healthy living with that Neptune energy? So we have crummy patterns with squares to the nodes that we need to look at our assumptions and our default reflexive reactions and look at the models our family gives us and not repeat what we did in the past and not repeat what they did, because everyone's in different ways bumping into this thing and not doing it well. So Neptune in the 11th house, Neptune's the part of us that needs to surrender and go with the flow, the part of us that needs to do that, the part of us that seeks greater meaning. So here we have in the house of groups and goals. This person might have very idealistic, lofty goals and join groups that fit that energy. In Scorpio, power dynamics, how to become empowered, how to tell the truth in groups, how to, even transcend normal kind of goal setting and have goals toward a spiritual life or spiritual living. Unresolved issue, square the nodes. Okay. And then we don't do aspects to the north node. If there were a conjunction there, I would do it in step 4. So we're starting over again now with the third pass to add in a really deep layer of interpretation or deepening layers of interpretation so you can see how these things look, and also kind of synthesizing all the 4 steps together, offer a little context for personality profile and kind of weighing different elements to understand where such a person is coming from or where she could be coming from given these elements and their relative weights and feels. So we go back to deeper interpretation of Pluto, Mercury in Virgo in the 9th, Mercury's retrograde, including square Moon and Sagittarius in the 1st. So Pluto in the 9th with Mercury. I'm thinking, I'm asking questions, Mercury's retrograde. Kind of not quite sure sometimes what the right questions are. I may not be sure what the right path for me is, but I'm thinking, I'm curious, I'm exploring different things. And because the Mercury's retrograde and Pluto indicates sometimes feeling disempowered, feeling not strong and not confident, I might believe things that aren't true. I might get involved in a group because something sounds good, and through my analysis and discernment, Virgo, find out it's not true. I might explore along those lines. I might explore religious traditions or spiritual teachings or philosophies like through academia or political ideologies of various kinds. I might try one on for size and say, I don't know, that's not really me. No, that's not really me. Then I might try another one on for size and say, well, that's interesting. Let me make some notes and ask questions and go to this discussion group and the study group. Let me take some courses. And then that isn't really it. And after a while, the person, because this Mercury's retrograde, might be exhausted. Now, that exhaustion could come in with her from other lifetimes too. So she might not ask all the questions. She might. She might sometimes take something on faith when she needs to ask hard questions. Pluto conjunct Mercury indicates an inherently, naturally curious person. But since one of them's retrograde in the house of thinking big, she's probably tired. She's probably tired of finding out that she asks a clear question and she can't get a clear answer. Why did that guy die for our sins? Oh, just take it on faith. No, what? Can you just tell me more? Just read this book. That's my joke. That's my example. I don't mean to make fun of Christianity at all, but let me just say, like, somebody asks a question like, oh, you're trying to tell me about your beliefs. Okay, yeah. Well, can you tell me more? I'm curious. And somebody goes, here's a book. Read the book. and the first person reads the book and says, oh yeah, I have 6 questions. The person goes, yeah, tell me, ask the questions, because I've been studying this stuff my whole life, my family tradition, whatever. And the person asks the first question, and the person goes, The second person goes, just read the book again. If you really read the book, you wouldn't have questions. And the first person's like biting her lip, like, what are you talking about? Like, it's natural to analyze what I'm reading. It's natural to have questions. Now, think about that in terms of a political ideology. think about that in terms of, like, for example, supporting a political candidate in a certain race. Can you tell me what your position on this? Because I'd love to work for your campaign, but I just need a little more info. And the candidate talks in circles, in doublespeak out of both sides of his mouth, and you didn't get anything. Think about that in terms of, studying philosophy or anything where you're asking questions. And this might be the little kid in religious school of any tradition who says, "Yeah, teacher, I don't know what you said last week. Kind of what you just said now contradicts what you said last week. And can you just explain more?" And the teacher says, "What's wrong with you? Just listen, take notes. There's a test next week." Not being able to get answers, in other words. Virgo, Mercury, I need to know what's happening and why with Pluto. I'm the detective and I need a deep understanding of why this is happening. I can't just take it on faith, or if I do, I might kind of screw myself over and regret it later. Or I've learned I can't take things on faith alone. I need to be analytical, but I'm having a hard time getting to the truth. But I need to believe something. Pluto in the ninth is about the search for truth. Okay. Now let's think about the square to Moon in Sagittarius in the first house. When first house people square us, they're typically confident. And in Sagittarius, they have big ideas. They have big personalities ruled by Jupiter, of course. So family members, Moon, who believe things, Sagittarius, who are bold. Maybe they're leaders. Maybe this person is born into a religious family or into a family where the parents, maybe the grandparents were clergy people or something like that, right? So there's a tradition of belief. Parents were shaped by being raised in a tradition too, and this kid's like, "Hey, I got questions." And maybe the parents like, read the book. If you really want to know, read the book, because I read the book and I lived that life and I'm not doing it, or I am doing it, and I want you to read this pamphlet. And you're like, I've read all the pamphlets. The person, so, or I have questions, and the family member says, "You're making it too complicated." Like the spirit calls you or it doesn't. The call to run for office is real or not. Support this candidate or don't. Like the Moon person would be gut oriented, instinct, hunch oriented. When I say gut, I mean yeah, like that gut instinct. But they also might not be critical, where Pluto, Mercury, and Virgo is very critical. And I mean discerning, paying attention to actual words that are being used. I ask you a question, your double speak doesn't help me. I ask you again, and you say, "I just answered your question." And you're like, "No, you didn't. You said this and that. It depends on how you use that word and what you let it mean." And the person's like, "La, la, 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 la. I don't know why all these questions. Read the book again." So in a bunch of lifetimes, this person's like, "Why would Aristotle say this when this happened?" And the professor goes, right? Or the clergy person or the family member or the mentor or whatever, why do you have to have so many questions? Okay. So this is something that happens to this person in a bunch of lifetimes. The Plutonian empowerment path, maybe this person may feel unsupported in becoming empowered, asking hard questions, learning big topics, because other people just seem so sure of what's true. Now, taking away the idea of conflict and criticism and long, depressing sighs instead of getting answers, just think about people feel strongly, they just know what's true in their gut. And here's this other person asking so many questions, saying, why is it so hard for you? Why is it so hard for you? We don't understand why you can't just take this on faith. Okay. So that's a deeper layer of that square. And because it's Moon square Pluto Mercury, this person may feel unsupported over and over again in many, many lifetimes. Like whatever this chart holder is curious about, people in the family may say, I don't know why you want to know that. I don't know why you need to study that. Or I don't know why you need to travel halfway across the world and sit at some guy's feet and pray. Just read a book or something, right? Like not being clear why the experience of searching for the truth is so important to this person. Okay. So that's a deeper layer series of analyses of possibilities with step one. Okay. Now, let's move on to step two and start over again with Mars conjunct South Node, and then we'll add in the Neptune square. Moving that little circle. Okay. So again, saturated with all versions of Mars, all the best and worst of Mars, Mars conjunct South Node in the eighth house, regarding shared values and resources, regarding sex, death, other people's money, intimacy of all kinds, all manner of trust issues. Now, as I said, the point is to learn to recover from breaches of trust. But people with this kind of signature might be quite, have been harmed deeply, might be traumatized by abusive issues, sexual abuse, or any other kind. And also, Virgo in the eighth house, the imagery lends itself toward control issues sometimes. Nitpicky control issues. Can't do anything right. You got a drill sergeant in the family who's like pressuring everybody else to, show up on time, never be late, finish everything. Exacting standards are something that come with the South Node in Virgo and Pluto in Virgo too, and South Node ruler in Virgo. So this person's got a triple layer of this. So saturated with Mars. And I say that, and you might, and I mentioned a couple of things. Think of different ways that Mars can come out. Somebody rescuing other people, rescuing kittens from trees. First responder energy, military energy, athletic, an emphasis on athletics, physicality, anger issues. Maybe anger saturates one or more persons in this family system. Maybe somebody was abused 3 generations back and it's been handed down. So now this chart holder's parent is really cruel because everyone's received this abuse down through generations. Or maybe that energy's there and somebody defends the kids and the other people. Maybe there's a strong defense thing where somebody rescued me from my abusive loved one, my abusive family member. We left in the middle of the night because my mom said enough. So saturated with Mars can mean so many different things. Maybe the need to develop courage, maybe the existence of courage, right? Then let's think about Mars in Virgo with the orientation toward being of help, of service, and fixing. That's why I was talking about rescuing. Mars is kind of a rescuing energy, and Mars in Virgo could do that. Maybe this is, indicative. When I look at a chart, because I have Jehudi, Hermes, Thoth in my mind, I see all these things at once. He stretched my mind open. But as I teach astrology, like he stretched my sixth chakra to be aware of a lot of possibilities simultaneously, which is not really normal for persons. And that's just part of the process I've gone through with channeling. And then I take the time to teach this stuff so you can see many things at once, but you don't have to channel him. So that's kind of what I'm just going through a list of various possibilities. When I look at a chart, I see in his mind all these possibilities. It takes a long time to articulate. One time, one of my students was like, can you tell me about Pluto and Sagittarius people? And it took like almost an hour to explain what I see when I look at it, the depth of it. So anyway, that's how, I'm teaching this stuff to help you basically think like Hermes, think like your soul sees your chart without having to channel him for years and get yourself stretched open, because not everybody can have that experience. Not everybody will. Okay, so rescue from harm or whatever. This could also be like anger issues about abandonment. This could be all kinds, anything Mars. Think about Mars keywords and go through one by one. Read Mars keywords and think about in the house of intimacy, trust, and shared money, or sex and intimacy, how could that look? Okay. So let's add in the deeper layer. Given that context, the square of Neptune and Scorpio in the 11th square the node. So this unresolved issue, remember, maybe the chart holder knows 4 or 5 key things about Neptune and Scorpio in the 11th. Maybe the person joins groups and becomes parts of movements that are revolutionary, they're promising to change society. This person might escape Neptune to groups to avoid some of the potentially painful histories I just talked about with the Mars saturation in the family. Like a childhood of abuse may make somebody go into helping other people in a compassionate service, Neptune way, in groups. Maybe the person and a sibling were abused or something, or maybe this person grows up to rescue pets who have been abused, or pets on the street, or working with people who live on the street because of very difficult circumstances. Like the urge toward compassionate service with Neptune, to be a transformative influence, Scorpio, right? To be part of a group, 11th house, to be part of a movement, whether it's working in a nonprofit, volunteering, being part of a political movement, or investing in community activism, developing resources in community and compassionate service, in order to be a positive influence after experiencing negative influences because of Mars. So the unresolved issue could be escape into groups, into causes, into revolutions. A healthy way to live with this Neptune is to upgrade the groups she's part of if they don't work, to not put blinders on, to not be willing to deceive herself or be deceived by a beautiful picture that might not really be healthy and good. So if there's a deep level of, let's say, trust issues or wounding to the ability and willingness of this chart holder to trust because of negative things from the 8th house conditioning, this unresolved issue in the family system could be people escaping through alcohol. People, this person escaping through drug use or any kind of, gaming, pornography, eating, any kind of escapist behavior that's distracting, right? There's also something about Neptune where things can sometimes slip through our fingers. Well, this is a house of goals. In addition to being about groups and planning for the future, it's about goals. Well, maybe a goal has slipped through the fingers and the person's depressed. Or maybe a parent is and showed this model of escapist behaviors that maybe became addictions, or maybe just a person wasn't home. Maybe the person lost faith and has a really painful chip on the shoulder. Neptune and Scorpio can have that because a revolution failed, or because a goal imploded or exploded in someone's face or slipped through the fingers is more likely. So in the family system, the Mars thing says we're courageous and we're strong, but we might have been through a lot, right? Mars in the 8th house on the south node, and the Neptune and the Scorpio in the 11th, and we may have tried to escape or sometimes paint a rosy picture. Like maybe I felt enticed to join a group that promised me a picture of a rosy future. And wow, I needed something better to focus on than my actual history if I don't know how to heal the Mars stuff in the south node in the 8th. Be getting involved in a group that has a charismatic leader, even a cult. Maybe that's part of it. Where, think about this chart holder could say, yeah, my parents, they were always fighting and it was so hard. I just need a positive image. And you find somebody who's like promising like glorious futures and lands of milk and honey or fuck whatever. I don't know. Sorry. Anyway, whatever. Beep, beep. promising something. Neptune can be delusional or illusion as well as truth. So this person, I wouldn't be surprised if I met a person with this chart and he or she had succumbed to some beautiful image of a future and then been disappointed. Yeah. Okay. So good. So that's step number 2, a little deeper interpretation. Now let's go to step 3, South Node ruler by sign again. South Node's in Virgo, South Node ruler by sign is this Mercury. Now, at this level of analysis, we are going to include that the sun is here. I left that out of the second layer, but we are going to include these 3 together, right? So this person shows up with Pluto integrally involved in her process and sun. She needs to shine. She's creative. She may exhibit leadership. She may be charming and charismatic with the sun. With the Pluto, she's intense. She's up against transformation. She may find herself depressed sometimes. Creativity may be, the way to break through, but maybe she's depressed. Maybe she's overwhelmed by the reality that a lot of things that people believe in may be kind of garbagey. That people may seem to believe anything put in front of them when she needs to ask hard questions, right? She needs those answers. Remember, Pluto is an energy of the detective. Pluto needs depth. So South Node ruler conjunct Pluto says, I need depth. And South Node in the 8th says, Pluto's house, I need depth. So this person shows up in many lifetimes asking hard questions and maybe even made the villain for challenging other people's beliefs. In the first step, the empowerment journey thing, I talked about the Pluto Mercury is, intense curiosity, blah, blah, blah. Well, now we have this person shows up conjunct Pluto and Sun. Probably makes some noise and probably bothers people. Nobody wants to deal with Pluto unless it's mysterious and sexy and hot and promises that you have power or seems to indicate that transformation, superhero movies and comic books or whatever that promises transformation. So showing up as a Plutonian person means in many lifetimes means upsetting people, because you show up to say, you know what, can I ask you questions about your faith? I'm just curious. And then the person pushes all the buttons. Asking the questions makes the person who's being asked the questions frustrated. Why are you picking on me? Why are you criticizing my beliefs? And this person would say, like, oh, I'm just genuinely I just want to understand. I'm curious. But the person might be projected upon Pluto in every lifetime. Okay. So that's some challenges, right? Showing up as a South Node ruler conjunct Pluto means you are Plutonian. And also South Node ruler conjunct Sun means you get attention, even if you don't want it, because you have a solar presence. Some people may be drawn to you, your creativity, your charisma, your attractiveness, whatever. Okay, now let's talk about South Node ruler again, square moon. I don't think I added this in on the second pass because I just did it in the first pass and got confused. But now we think about this person's role in many lifetimes as a Sun person, as a Pluto and Virgo in the 9th house person, carrying those energies strongly. Retrograde. So I'm trying to figure out the right questions to ask, trying to figure out what I should believe, trying to figure out what I should say, what I should announce. What do I feel is true? 9th house search for truth. I'm retrograde. I'm not quite sure. Square moon and Sagittarius in the 1st. So what I said about the Pluto thing applies. People in the family system, people in my community, people close to me are saying, read the book. And this person says, golly gee whiz expletives, I read the book 3 times. Here's my list of notes. And the person says, we don't need notes. We don't need notes. You either get it or you don't. You're either open to the truth, right? Moon and Sagittarius in the 1st, like kind of being aggressive about what's true. You're either open to the truth or you're not. And you're wasting our time. You're wasting my time with these questions. So it's another layer of potentially feeling unsupported by expressing curiosity, by exploring different versions of what could be true. Okay. Okay. Now let's go to a deeper way of understanding the North Node, which of course is still down here. So now let's think about, oh, let me do this other thing here. No, wait, why is that happening? That's fine. I'll make it red. Whatever. Okay, I was trying to figure out how to have two colors. I don't know if this app can do that. This program can do that. Anyway, so thinking about this emphasis in the family system on control dynamics or the drill sergeant energy or measure up to my standard, right? Somebody could feel very controlled in this place. The North Node in the second house says I have to live according to my own value system. South Node in the eighth conjunct Mars says I may have a lot of experiences in this life and millions of lives being pressured to live according to other people's value systems. So how do I want to use my time and energy? Well, the voice of my dad's in my head. You got to get up at 5 a.m. and you got to do all this stuff, and volunteer work's important, and blah, 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 blah. And you have to do this and listen to your mother. And I said, no. Well, how do you want to use your time? Well, but I was up early and so to decondition from others' expectations is and their expectations, their desires, their demands is a second house North Node thing opposing the eighth house South Node. So the emphasis and habit and conditioning is in the eighth house, conjunct Mars and Virgo. Well, we always did this. My mom expected this. My dad required this. My grandmother made us do this. And this North Node says, yeah, sounds great. What do you want to do with your time and energy? Now, living according to your values also includes earning money in a way that creates self-respect, using your time and other resources, including money, in ways that create self-respect, that help you prove to yourself that you can make it on your own. Therefore, people with the South Node in the eighth house sometimes don't know that they can make it on their own. They're accustomed to joining their wagons with others. They're accustomed to relying on others and being relied upon. They're habituated to those expectations from others, and especially with Mars here, strong-willed, warrior-like, or angry abuse of others. So the North Node in the second house says, yeah. What do you think? Now, in Pisces, to surrender to what is true for me, to give up control, but to not be willing to operate according to others' control dynamics. And that means that this chart holder would also have to learn to let others be who they are and not Mars and Virgo try to fix them. I didn't mention this earlier, but this is a truth. People with Pluto in Virgo, or the South Node in Virgo, or the South Node ruler in Virgo, and sometimes any planet in the sixth or in Virgo, these people have two superhero or superheroine abilities, and then they're confronted with a challenge. The first superheroine ability for this chart holder is the ability to see what's not working perfectly. In the ninth house in your belief system, right? In the eighth house in our relationship and our dynamics and how you use money, and I'm very aware of it, blah, blah, blah. Second superheroine power is to come up with solutions and efficiencies. I see what's wrong and I know how to fix it. I can come up with 7 ways of doing that better than you're doing it right now. Now, the third question is, what are you really responsible for? Or the third thing, which is a challenge, is discerning what you're really responsible for. So the North Node in Pisces in the second says this chart holder needs to focus on her own business And when other people mess in and try to say, like a call from a family member, like a call from a sibling, like every Tuesday night, why are you with that guy? What's wrong with you? To ignore it and to live according to her own value system. And Pisces, surrender to self-trust and reject the Virgoan control tendencies of loved ones and essentially reject one's own control tendencies of self and other. And I didn't mention the judgment, the criticism of the Virgo potentials here, the Virgo energy potentials, like recrimination, criticism, like you're always wrong. You never do it right. Why aren't you better? Why can't you be more like your cousin? But that comes into play here because this chart holder is challenged to accept what is and accept what her gut says, but what's the right thing to do for herself. That echoes personality level, having the first house moon in Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising, like being a double Sagittarius. Sun's in Virgo, yes, but the person's a double Sagittarius. So I have to trust my gut instinct. Well, with the North Node in the second house in Pisces, same kind of thing. What feels true to me? And then mom calls and says, you shouldn't have bought that car. You should have bought the car I told you to buy. But what feels true to the chart holder? And it can be a real challenge prying oneself away from very influential family members who love her. But this person, this chart holder, must develop self-trust, self-reliance, and live according to her own values, which does include earning, saving, using money in ways that make sense to her. We think of the shorthand of the second house as money and possessions, but it's really about self-reliance, self-worth, and again, living according to your own values. Because when you're in alignment with your own values, things flow better and you respect yourself, you like yourself. So that's the new territory here with the North Node. She hasn't been shown in many, many lifetimes, including this one, how to create self-respect through letting go of control tendencies and following her bliss, following her intuition, Pisces, being intuitive about what's worth what, second house Pisces. Okay, so anyway, this is a little tour of this chart going through 3 layers of deepening analysis. Check out Evolutionary Astrology Fundamentals 1 and 2 home study courses. And if you want to get welcomed into seeing your astrology chart as Hermes, Ascended Master Jehudi, Thoth, Saint Germain, Merlin does. And also what he's telling me is, this is how your soul sees your chart. And that's how, when I do these analyses for people, they say, you know me better than anyone's ever known me. What's the deal? And I say, I have an ascended master in my head who understands how your soul designed your life. And if you want a reading like that, where I go into deep detail, that's about an hour long about your journey, Soul's Journey Multilife Overview. Again, it's called the Soul's Journey Multilife Overview MP3 reading. And I'll put that link in the description below as well. And I've done hundreds of these readings, maybe 700, maybe 750, something like that over the years. They used to be super short, and then I just got longer and longer and longer. Now they are about an hour long total. And it's life-changing, and people listen to them over and over again because I give suggestions on how to change the energies too. So see what I'm up to at tdjacobs.com and check out the links and study astrology with me and learn to live in the Aquarian age, learn to identify and change karma. Take care.